Today on Variant, we keep Star Wars month going strong with the alternate versions of the Stormtroopers. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I can't wait to see Rogue One. I'm your host, Arris. Stormtroopers are easily one of the most popular and recognizable characters in the Star Wars franchise. But as popular as they are, the average fan may not know that there are different types of troopers, and they all do different things. In fact, if you count the Star Wars Legends versions, there's an ungodly amount of different Stormtroopers. So for our purposes, I'm only going to mention the Stormtroopers that are in official Star Wars canon, as those are the only Stormtroopers you'll see in the movies, comics, cartoons, games, and so on. But don't worry, there's still a lot of Stormtroopers to get through that are in canon. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each trooper, because again, we still have a lot to get through. With that said, let's get to it. As many of you know, there are several subgroups of Stormtroopers, each equipped and trained for a particular trait or mission. They're trained and sorted out depending on the environment the trooper would encounter. Recruits are chosen for a particular training early on in their career, at which point they are conditioned and given the appropriate knowledge and training for tasks that would be required for that trait. Once psychologically and physically conditioned to their specific role and identity, they basically never want to leave that division, as their identity is now strongly embedded with what they were trained for. With that said, let's get into some of the alternate versions of Stormtroopers. Of course, I have to start with the standard Stormtrooper, which is the most common trooper in the Galactic Empire. Stormtroopers wear white armor over a black body glove, and they most commonly carry an E11 blaster rifle as well. Together it makes for a pretty intimidating soldier. Each trooper was also given an array of survival equipment, as well as a thermal detonator attached to their lower back. But as most Star Wars fans know, the one downfall to their armor is that it offers limited protection against blaster fire. Moving along, we have Scout Troopers. Scout Troopers wore much smaller armor than the standard Stormtrooper, due to their need to be more mobile and flexible as they ride speeder bikes to guard the perimeter of the Imperial garrison that they were assigned to. They also wear different helmets that I personally think look really cool. This helmet allows them to see better as they pilot their speeder bike. An offshoot of the Scout Trooper is the Sniper Troopers. They're specialists that are pulled from the ranks of the Scout Troopers and snipe enemies down with an E11 long-range blaster. Then of course we have Sand Troopers. As you may have guessed or already know, they were equipped to operate in hotter environments such as desert worlds like Tatooine. To survive in the desert, they wore survival backpacks filled with rations and water. They also work really closely with Dewback Troopers, aka Dewback Riders. As the name implies, Dewback Troopers ride on dewbacks and use jolts of electricity to control their animals. Then we have the opposite of Stormtroopers, which are the Cold Weather Assault Stormtroopers, simply known as Snowtroopers. Snowtroopers were handpicked from worlds with extremely cold temperatures. This assured the Empire that the troopers were already used to the cold climate. As you would imagine, Snowtroopers' armor is very well insulated in order to protect them from extremely low temperatures. They also wore special skirt-like masks with a heated breather that could last up to 2 weeks. Next up, we have one of the coolest looking troopers called the Shadow Troopers. Shadow Troopers look a lot like standard Stormtroopers, with the biggest difference being the color of the armor, which is black instead of white. They are mainly used for stealth, as their armor is equipped with cloaking devices, and instead of carrying an E11 blaster, they carry T21 light repeating blasters. Next is the Magma Trooper, which, like Shadow Troopers, I think is a really cool name. Magma Trooper's main job is to stop revolts on the volcanic mining worlds like Sullust. They wear rank pauldrons on their shoulders, similar to the Sand Troopers, and also have modified respirators to protect them from volcanic ashes and chemicals, because breathing in all that crap would kill you dead. These troopers also use the T21 long repeating blasters, as well as the DLT heavy blaster rifles. These next two troopers are among the least heard of, but if you have both a Sand Trooper and a Snow Trooper, it's just common sense that the Empire would also want to have a Sea Trooper and a Space Trooper. Well, guess what? They do. I know it's rather obvious, but Sea Troopers were trained and equipped to operate in aquatic environments, while Space Troopers wore armor and a rebreather pack that allowed them to operate and survive in space. Space Troopers were mainly used to patrol the outside of the Death Star. Moving along yet again, I'm sure many of you would agree that flamethrowers are one of the coolest weapons out there. I mean, it's a cannon that shoots fire. Come on. Meaning that puts the Flame Troopers among the coolest troopers out there. Like many of the troopers on this list, they're just a variant or offshoot of the standard Stormtrooper, who carry a freaking flamethrower. We actually see them in the opening scene of The Force Awakens, and it's awesome. Now, if you played Star Wars Battlefront, you're probably really familiar with the next trooper, called the Imperial Shock Trooper. Shock Troopers are elite frontline forces for the Empire. They also act as bodyguards for Emperor Palpatine. Their armor has distinctive red markings all over it, and they carry around a DLT-19 heavy blaster rifle, or a rocket launcher. Moving along yet again, we have Imperial Heavy Troopers. They use heavy durable armor and electro staves for combat against tougher opponents. Then you have Heavy Weapons Stormtroopers, who use rapid-fire rotary blaster cannons, which pretty much level anything in their way. Again, freaking awesome. Then there's jump troopers who use jump packs that allow them to hover in the air and jump over walls to attack enemy turrets. They also carry burst shields from time to time and use RT-97C heavy blaster rifles. Next are Stormtrooper Grenadiers, who are specialized in the use of grenade launchers. There's pretty much a Stormtrooper for almost any specialty you can think of. But we're not done yet. Keeping this Stormtrooper train rolling, we have Phase 2 Dark Troopers. These heavily armored experimental units were used sometime between the Battle of Yavin and the Battle of Hoth, and were given assault cannons to break down enemy defenses. Similar to the Phase 2 Dark Troopers, at least in look, are the Purge Troopers. These guys enforce the Empire's rule in the Anote sector. Then moving to a recent addition to the list, we have the First Order Stormtroopers, which of course are Stormtroopers for the First Order. They're a bit of a hybrid between the older designs of the Clone Troopers of the Galactic Republic and the Stormtroopers of the Galactic Empire. The First Order Stormtroopers are just one of the many elements that show that the First Order derived from the Fallen Empire. Now, I couldn't go without mentioning one of the most popular troopers of all time, the Clone Troopers. They were originally under the control of the Galactic Republic, but then fell under the control of the Galactic Empire. As you may or may not know, they are called Clone Troopers because they are genetic clones of the bounty hunter Jango Fett, who is Boba Fett's father. The Clone Troopers were far superior to battle droids and represented the next step in galactic warfare at the time. Next up, I know if I don't at least mention her, I'm gonna have hundreds of people saying, what about Captain Phasma? Well, she's the captain of the First Order Stormtroopers and wears armor covered in chromium, as well as a red and black cape. The chromium finish protects her from harmful radiation, but also serves as a symbol of power. She uses a Sunblast F-11D blaster rifle that is also polished in chromium. Lastly, we have two of the newest Stormtroopers from Rogue One, the Scarif Troopers and the Death Troopers. The Scarif Troopers are another offshoot of the Galactic Empire's Stormtroopers. They're trained and equipped to fight in tropical environments. Since we filmed this before the movie's release, all I know of them right now is that they're stationed at a secret Imperial military headquarters on a tropical planet called Scarif. They guard the beaches and bunkers of the headquarters. I also think they look really cool. The helmet and armor design is great. Speaking of awesome designs, the Death Troopers are probably one of the coolest looking Stormtroopers ever created, in my opinion at least. They wear black armor and have green lights around the mouth area of their helmet. They're the Empire's military intelligence that focuses on issues dealing with the Imperial Navy. They were sometimes assigned to protect high-ranking personnel and could have been present for the theft of the Death Star plans. Can you believe that bullcrap? They just let that happen. It's so hard to find good help these days. But like I said, as of me shooting this video, not much is known about them yet. But just like that, my comic conrads, this list of alternate Stormtroopers has come to an end. I'm sure I may have missed a few Stormtroopers that are in Star Wars canon, but I think this is a pretty solid list, and I'm sure it definitely opened the eyes of the non-diehard Star Wars fans to just how deep the Stormtroopers really go in the Star Wars universe. When you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use. The guys at Domain.com gave Variant an awesome offer. Get 15% off Domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variant at checkout. So when you think domain names, think Domain.com. First up for Wednesday, December 7th, we have Nightwing Issue 10. Following Night of the Monster Men and his battle with Raptor, Nightwing heads to Bloodhaven for a fresh start. Here we have Batman Issue 12. As Bane decimates Batman's team, the Dark Knight must decide how far he's willing to go and who he's willing to sacrifice for those he left in Gotham City. And finally, we have Star Wars Dr. Aphra Issue 1. Following the blockbuster finale of Darth Vader Issue 25, the fan-favorite character begins a new journey in this new ongoing series. That brings another episode of Variant to a close. Remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or me on Twitter at Arris_Quinones. But I'll see your lovely faces next week when I talk about some more Star Wars. They're trained and escorted out depending on the environment the trooper would encounter.